Hey, here are 5 stupid things I've noticed about Saturday Night Live. It's not funny. Pretty basic. Also pretty subjective, which I do want to acknowledge. One person's wind-blown cemetery where stillborn laughs lie buried, untended, and forgotten is another person's opposite of that. But Saturday Night Live rarely actually makes me laugh. And since I'm cursed with the brain of a critic, it's not enough for me to just say, that's not funny, and move the fuck on with my life. I feel compelled to examine, to analyze, to attempt and articulate why it is that this venerable American television institution so consistently fails to amuse me. Having given it some thought already, I can tell you that one of the biggest reasons is this. Its writing is fundamentally bad. It goes deeper than jokes not working. The writing of most SNL sketches ignores basic rules of not just comedy, but storytelling. The typical sketch opens by explaining to us its premise, then it tells us again, and then it tells us 2 or 3 more times, and then it just sort of ends, usually with no resolution, often without even a punchline. SNL writers also have the terrible habit of explaining jokes as if they're worried we won't get it unless they tell us why it's supposed to be funny. Even potentially good material is doomed to fall flat when the underlying mechanics are so flawed. And much of the material doesn't even rise to that level. Its political satire is toothless. It's ironic that SNL's recurring spells of mainstream relevance usually coincide with presidential elections because its attempts at political humor have never been very good. With the exception of a few years during Tina Fey's tenure as head writer, the show has never had a very strong, singular comic voice, which renders its political satire limp, pointless, and worst of all, safe. Sure, Dana Carvey's George Bush, the respective Bill Clintons of Phil Hartman and Darrell Hammond, and Will Ferrell's other George Bush were all funny impressions, but the show rarely found anything to actually do with them. Ditto for Jay Farrow's Obama and Kate McKinnon's Hillary Clinton. Actually, ditto for Jay Farrow and Kate McKinnon. Talented cast members and guests are wasted. I'm convinced that the problems with SNL are rooted in its format and its structure. That's the only way I can explain how so many incredibly funny people can come together to make such an excruciatingly unfunny show. Think about all the talented performers that have been in the cast of Saturday Night Live throughout the last 40-plus years. Bill Murray, Gilda Radner, Eddie Murphy, Dana Carvey, Phil Hartman, Norm Macdonald, Bill Hader, Will Forte, Kristen Wiig, Tracy Morgan, Tina Fey, Amy Poehler, Fred Armisen, and the list of amazingly talented, funny comedians goes on and doesn't include Dan Aykroyd no matter how long you make it. And on top of the cast, the hosts are often some of the funniest, most talented performers in the entertainment industry. And yet for all of this, the show fails far more often than it succeeds. Which raises a question that may have occurred to some of you already. If this show is really so terrible, why is it still on? And what the fuck am I doing watching it? And I don't really know. But I think it might have something to do with the fact that it runs on nostalgia. Saturday Night Live is a permanent fixture, a continuing cultural presence that allows us to feel in continuity with the younger versions of ourselves who were sufficiently naive or drunk or stoned or all 3 to actually find the show funny. I remember beginning to watch it when I was about 10 and thinking myself very sophisticated for even getting many of the jokes on this obviously very grown-up show. I started watching Saturday Night Live before I really knew what I thought was funny, and in a way, the show helped me to figure that out. It's just that when I did finally figure out what I thought was funny, it didn't include Saturday Night Live. But I still watch, and I even force a chuckle for the jokes that don't really deserve one, which is most of them. And I guess the main reason I do this is because I've just been doing it for so long. The hardest part is only picking 5. Catch you next time.